Aloha, Dr. Heather Tucker here, and thanks for clicking on this video because I wanted to talk to you and let you know a little bit more about me. So, my background is actually in IT. I used to be an awesome technologies researcher for the government. I transitioned into higher education because I've always had a passion for teaching and being able to support people and stepping into whatever their path and their calling is. And one of the things I've recognized in my world around me, I'm pretty much empathic and very sensitive to energy and environment and emotions. And for growing up for a long time, I couldn't understand why I was such this emotional, like, wrecking ball. I don't know about that. But, I would hear, Heather, you're too sensitive. And then I started hearing it and I thought it was like a really bad thing. And so I learned to shut down my emotions when I was so early on, but not just because of that, but also because of the traumas, the significant emotional events that I experienced in my life. And that includes losses of loved ones. I remember the earliest experience of death was when I lost my grandfather. And it's not by natural causes. He was murdered. He was shot in the head and the heart. And he was an entrepreneur. He was really successful in what he did. And there was no resolution to his murder or to what happened to him. And it was this because it was a trauma, it was like, okay, we're just not going to talk about it and we're moving on with life. But ever since that moment, and even there were serious, significant emotional events even before then, it seemed like this big weight of pain, of loss, of grief, of uncertainty, of failures, of mistakes. So whereas on the external, like my business, my career, like it was super successful. On the internal, there was so much conflict and so much struggle. And one of the things that really caused it to be sometimes overbearing was relationships, the people closest to me, right? My significant other, my partner, the spouse, my children, right? Like my parents, like all of these external things and situations, and also even working in corporations, like in having to deal with coworkers who are also dealing with heavy things. It created this heart, like it was so much happening that I felt like I just couldn't care. And a lot of times I was operating in so much fear that I would want to just forget everything and run. It was like, the word is post-traumatic stress. So post-traumatic stress is also known as trauma, right? A lot of times the things that we experience when we're younger, they actually impact us today. And a lot of times we're even unconsciously aware of how that happens. So that was me. My mind used to be this very crazy place, especially because I was working on computers 24/7. Well, not really 24/7, but like 14 hours a day on the computer. That's just insane. That's just insane. And it took so much. It's like how to focus when there's so much stuff going on. And so I had one of those, I would shut down. I would get so overwhelmed that I would shut down. And the thing is, life keeps going, things happen. So I was like, okay, I wanted to work smarter, not harder. I wanted to be able to step into whatever God is calling me to step into now. And that's when He led me to another level living. It was one of the things that he said was that there is so much greater in you than anything out there. What the spirit that he put in me. A lot of times people talk about the God in me. And sometimes I remember even being afraid to talk about my faith of Christianity and Jesus. And it would be sometimes like a pushback, or it's like it's not safe to really be me and own all of the blessing and all of that God created me to be. And then externally, I would see these things show up, right? In a relationship where maybe there's a fear of rejection or a fear of uncertainty or like chaos. So the most intimate relationships, especially if there's internal conflict with your spouse or with someone that's close to you or even with your children, it can take a toll and cause exhaustion and draining on your part. It happened to me. And what I learned is that emotions and our thoughts and our energy is contagious, right? So, how to be able to, it's not about what happens externally, but it's about how we respond to it. So, when that significant emotional event happened with my grandfather, what were the things that I said to myself about entrepreneurship, about not being able to shine, about not being able to do all of those things prevented total success in business later. So these patterns, they cause fractions, they cause our mind to be overwhelmed, and it's about creating a whole heart and a whole mind, and they're working on one accord. It is possible to reprogram your mind for success. So I left the government, I came into went into higher education, and I knew it was temporary. And the thing was, I said I wanted to help people. I don't know what that's going to look like. And I remember my mom, she said, well, Heather, that's great. You just want to make sure you get paid for it. I'm like, all right, cool. And when I discovered the world of coaching, see, coaching saved my life. It was such a spiral down. Like, no matter what chaos was happening externally, there was so much chaos happening internally. And here's what's funny, especially in a relationship, when you got one person has a lot going on and another person has a lot going on, you get a whole bunch of like fireworks. So, it was safer to flee. It was safer to run. And then I was blessed with a beautiful family. And my husband, he's a Purple Heart Marine Corps veteran. He did a couple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it comes military trauma and military PTSD has a whole different flavor that it was so interesting to be able to understand the beauty behind it. But for those who are also caring for loved ones who have trauma, who have stuff going on, know that it's okay. It's okay for them not to be okay. It's okay for you not to be okay. You just can't stay there, especially because this is the essence of harmony. So, stepping into your energy, your mindset, your heart space, and be able to have that radiant healing from the inside out, in that place, nothing can, like, nothing negative can really exist. Okay. How can I say this? Like, hold on. It's really about like how you focus on it, right? How, like, what is the focus? Nothing can exist when you're standing in your power. There's no imposter syndrome, there's no procrastination, there's no lack of motivation, there's no like uncertainty about what is to happen, there's no um instability, there's sustainability, there's congruency, there's this calm confidence because you're aware what's happening in the past, present, and future. So that's what coaching is about. Coaching is really about bridging the gap from where you are to where you want to be. So for me, I knew, okay, this is where I am. This is where I am. This is where I want to be. But there's some stuff that happened like somewhere back there when who I was that is impacting what's going on today. And when you can be able to start unraveling those patterns of the past you, then the past you, the present you, and the future you are all working together. And that's what it's about. It's about more being who you're called to be, doing everything that you're called to do, and having everything that you've been called to have, but not with this, like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. I got to do this, like this have to 100,000 things on your list of stuff to do, 20 billion Zoom calls. Like, no, that actually creates overwhelm. So, for example, when you have less things on your to-do list, you can actually achieve more. You can be able to create. So this is where that time, money, and emotional freedoms comes in. The biggest and best way that I've learned on my journey to support those that I love most dear is to really be able to stand in my full power and my full ability to do what I'm called to do by the being that I'm called to be. And the having is a natural product, and I can be able to hold the space better for myself as well as my loved ones. And that's something that's so important, especially for women entrepreneurs. It can be, we are the emotional GPS of the family. So it's so important to be aware and also in harmony. Because the things that I got this from Stephen Furtick, I gave him a lot of credit recently because, you know, what was reminded me of the verse about what was meant to harm you, God turned into harmony, right? So there were these times where I felt like, oh my gosh, this is all harming me. When I break free from understanding that, I see the harmony in it. And that's what creates the biggest freedom. So yeah, you've heard a little bit of my story, and definitely schedule your clarity call. Let's be able to have a conversation because I didn't, if there's a challenge, if there's something that's going on, if it gets bigger, it becomes even more of like a mountain and harder to move. But even if there's a little bit of clarity around it, then the way forward on what's possible is right there. And hence lies the beauty of transformation. So take a look around our website, anotherlevelliving.com. Get your free gift on the 7 secrets to more biz life harmony. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Have an amazing rest of the day. Peace.